What's going on, everybody? This is Forrest from Double Decker Reptiles, and
Courtney from Double Decker Reptiles.
so today we're going to talk a little bit more about ball pythons and genetics. So real quick and simple stuff. It breaks down into three simple subjects. You've got dominant, co-dominant, and recessive. Some very good examples of dominant is just your standard ball python, Python Regis, royal python. It all depends on where you're from on how they're called. Then you break down into co-dominant, where you get into bananas, pastels, stuff of that nature. And then you break down into the recessive mutations. Now, recessive are you need two visual pair or two heterozygous pair to produce a recessive mutation. Co-dominants and dominants are fairly simple. You pair these two guys together, half your clutch will come out bananas and half your clutch will come out normals. Now, that is not a guarantee. I mean, as ball python clutch sizes do range depending on the weight of the animal and the age. So you could come out with a 1 and 4 or a 3 and 4. It just all depends on, the random assortment of genetics. So when we get into recessive mutations, most commonly known ones are the albinism or pod, or if you get in further on with, the axanthic, stuff like that. So you remember when I mentioned the heterozygous or het, heterozygous means it carries the gene that it could possibly produce these animals. So say you take a normal het albino to another normal het albino, you will get, you may run across that beautiful clutch of albinos and normals. Mm-hmm. So, that's pretty much as easy as it goes for the recessive mutations. And for everybody trying to get into breeding them, just understand that your recessive mutations are going to take a lot longer to get what you're after, unless you're willing to spend the money right offhand and just go ahead and get what you're after, such as pods, clowns, axanthics, albinism, you name it, you can do it.
Yeah. A little tip from people who have been in this for a little bit and have learned some things. Don't spend a ton of money on an animal that is supposedly het, especially if you don't know the breeder too well, you don't know the parents, you don't have any photographic proof that this animal has the genes that they say it does, because sometimes some breeders, not all breeders, but some breeders will charge double for an animal and just tack a het along to it, and it takes anywhere between a year to 3 years to grow the animal up enough to find out if it's actually het or not, which is more than enough time for them to have already spent your money. So just be careful. Do your research on who you're getting your animals from.
So when we get into the co-dominant mutations, pastel and the dominants with, let's say, pinstripe, a good combination of stuff. So if you get into those and you say you want to breed, and there's awesome websites you can look into, and we'll include some attachments at the bottom of the video that'll show you, like, hey, this is a good application to use for identifying snakes. And then you've got a website that actually has a genetic calculator, Morph Market. And from what I've seen, it's been fairly accurate, and I mean, it just adds up. So a good example of some cool stuff, if you produce, this little girl is a lemon blast. She is a pinstripe with a pastel. Very simple mutations that produce a really beautiful animal with a nice lavender head. And as you can see, that pinstripe is really, really on there. And that bright, beautiful yellow of pastel. So, like I said, everything comes with a grain of salt in breeding. Don't expect to get rich off of these animals. Pursue it more for, the fun and the passion for the conservation of the species. And just to make beautiful animals like this. And, with any luck, you'll be a little successful. But don't expect it to happen overnight, because that's just unfortunately not how it works.
Can I see Harley? Here you go. Oh, Gary. This also happens in some animals. There are actually animals that are classified on it, like pumpkin pies. But Harley, well, she'll sit still. She has this really funny looking birthmark that's kind of like upside down. Well, scalation, not birthmark. But it kind of looks like a frowny face, which is kind of funny. I mean, every animal has their personality. It's just in working with them, you get to see a lot of things that you're not used to. Like Gary, for instance, when we first got Gary, his name's Gary Busey. We thought it was a boy. This was our first ever snake. Turned out to be a girl. But we kept the name because we thought it was funny. So.
Another good tip, when you do buy snakes, make sure they're sexed appropriately. And if you're fuzzy on sexing snakes, you can ask the breeder to go ahead and pop the animal, which is essentially exposing the hemipenes or nothing at all. Or you can probe if they're going to be gentle. The dangers with probing, you could end up with a punctured hemipenes. It'll punch right through that back wall, which is not something you want to have happen, because it could have leading results of infection, so on and so forth. With all that being said, guys, thanks for watching. Please remember to comment, subscribe, and hit that bell to get notifications every time we upload. It has been great. Thank you.